Hello fellas. Welcome back to Top 5 Choices. This is Haley from Top 5 Choices, and I hope you all are doing good. In today's video, I am going to do a detailed review and pick the top 5 best drones under $500, 2022. After doing proper researches, we came to the conclusion that meets the best in terms of overall. Kindly leave a like if you find this helpful, and I'd appreciate if you subscribe to my channel and turn on post notifications if you haven't. We will be also providing affiliates link to purchase from Amazon. Kindly use it for best offers and purchase from anywhere in the world. We'll be back with more videos. The Rise Teo is the result of a collaboration between leading consumer drone maker DJI and fellow Chinese startup Rise. A simple, lightweight and affordable quadcopter, it's clearly pitched at newcomers to the hobby. Despite its budget-friendly price, it comes with an onboard nose-mounted camera that's capable of capturing 5MP photos and streaming 720p HD video. You also get a reasonable-sounding 13 minutes of flight time per fully charged battery and stability sensors to, theoretically, at least, keep it from drifting off into walls, shrubberies and neighbors' gardens. In other words, it hasn't been stripped right back to the bone to keep costs low. Even the plastic body, while we wouldn't call it premium by any means, feels tough enough to survive a bit of rough and tumble of flyable via a Wi-Fi-equipped smartphone running the Teo app. The drone has a theoretical control range of 100 m, maximum altitude of 30 m and maximum speed of 8 meters per second. The app comes with automatic takeoff and landing controls, plus an on-screen twin-stick setup that feels rewardingly responsive. The Rise Teo is a fun drone to fly, particularly if you're outside with room to spare. It zips along at an enjoyably rapid chop and responds nimbly to the on-screen controls, twisting and turning in the air with surprising grace. We should add that all of the above only applies when the weather is playing nice. On a breezy day, the 80G drone gets swept away by the slightest gust, and it struggles to move against the wind too, so we wouldn't recommend flying it in anything but dead calm. If you do decide to take it out in blustery conditions, make sure you give yourself plenty of space, otherwise you risk it crashing unceremoniously into a tree or being carried off and lost entirely. Rise cites the Wi-Fi range as up to 100 m, but in practice you'll likely never see it approach that. The maximum range we could control the drone at was closer to 30-40 m, and there are limits on its altitude too. Rise suggests it can reach heights of 30 m, but it seemed more like 10 m to us. While this range might sound a little restrictive, we think it's acceptable for a basic budget drone with a simple, forward-facing camera. You're not going to be using the Teo to capture sweeping aerial landscape photos, but close-range selfies and group shots. The Evo Nano weighs just 249 g, and that means that, like the DJI Mini and Mini 2, it can be flown in more places than drones above the 250 g weight limit. This is a key selling point because most of us are casual users who only fly occasionally when, say, on holiday, away for a weekend or shooting a family gathering. The last thing we want to do is have to jump through complicated legal hoops just so we can occasionally fly in areas considered a bit more dangerous. The Evo Nano is 142 by 94 by 55 mm when folded, a mere 4 mm longer than the Mini 2. But at 260 by 325 by 55 mm when unfolded, it has a considerably larger wingspan, which you could argue gives better stability in wind. Like the Mini 2, the Evo Nano is rated at level 5 for wind resistance. To be honest, you'd be hard-pressed to tell the difference between the Nano and DJI Mini 2 even when on the ground, let alone in the air. They are both very similar in design through the Evo Nano's rear propeller arms fold back horizontally rather than vertically, a bonus if the obstacle avoidance is off and you reverse into a tree. Build quality is perfectly acceptable for this price point, though the Nano's plastic construction does feel a tad thinner than that used on most DJI drones. Nevertheless, the Evo Nano feels so light in the hand it will probably survive most crashes, unless of course it's flown straight into a wall in sport mode. Like any modern drone, the Autel Evo Nano ships with a hand controller replete with cradle for plugging in a mobile phone so you can view the scene from the drone's camera along with a wide range of in-flight stats. The Evo Nano's hand controller feels reassuringly weighty and extremely comfortable in the hand, and it's not as brick-like as the DJI Mini 2's. It's equipped with all the right buttons, too, including Return to Home, a dedicated button for image and video taking, and a fantastically smooth and beautifully dialed gimbal controller. However, where DJI controllers have a space for storing the joysticks during transport, this model doesn't, so you'll need to remove the sticks before putting the controller in the supplied bag and store them in the bag-zipped compartment. The Mavic 3 follows the same design principles as previous Mavic drones. This means the propeller arms fold inwards to make the drone much smaller and more backpack-friendly when it's not in use, before folding out again in seconds when you're ready to get it airborne. Despite its darker paint job, the Mavic 3 also has that distinctive, iconic Mavic look and build quality. The folded dimensions of the Mavic 3 are 212 by 96.3 by 90.3 mm, while its unfolded size is 347.5 by 283 by 107.7 mm. This makes it similar to the Mavic 2 Pro when folded, with the unfolded size being slightly larger. The Mavic 3's takeoff weight is 895 g for the standard version and 899 g for the Cine version. This is actually lighter than the Mavic 2 Pro, 907 g, which is impressive considering the Mavic 3's battery is heavier and offers a higher capacity of 5000 mAh compared to Mavic 2's 3850 mAh battery. This time, the battery inserts into the back of the Mavic 3 body, rather than into the top. While the battery is a key player in the Mavic 3's improved flight time, some more efficient motors and propellers, alongside the drone's slightly reduced weight, help to increase flight times and provide a maximum speed of 47 mph/21 meters per second in sport mode. But those aren't the only design improvements, with the shape of the drone, camera and propeller arms all streamlined to reduce drag, which DJI claims adds up to a 35% improvement compared to the Mavic 2 series. This is, of course, impossible to test, but flight times have certainly improved since the previous generation. The Mavic 3 is a nimble drone that's much more responsive in flight than its Mavic 2 predecessors. In this respect, it's actually more like the DJI Phantom 4 Pro version 2.0. The controls are simply much more sensitive in both normal and sport modes, while Cine mode offers reduced control sensitivity and speed for smoother flights and more cinematic video footage. Flight is as nimble or subdued as you need it to be. While the Mavic 3's features and price make it more suited to experienced drone pilots and professional content creators, it could also serve as an entry point for beginners thanks to its advanced safety features and the popular QuickShots flight modes. The DJI Mavic Air 2 couldn't look or feel more different to its predecessor. The drone has been completely redesigned to provide significant improvements in all areas, including image quality, speed and flight time, among others. On the outside, the Mavic Air 2 looks like a miniaturized DJI Mavic 2 Pro and features the same folding design that sees the front arms swing out, and the rear arms rotate down and out, for flight. This means the Mavic Air 2 measures a tiny 180 by 97 by 84 mm when folded, roughly equivalent to a 500 ml bottle of beer, and just 183 by 253 by 77 mm when unfolded. With a weight of 570 g, it's just over half the weight of the Mavic 2 Pro, making it a highly portable, and indeed powerful, drone for both photographers and filmmakers. Depending on where you live, it's worth noting that this also means you may need to register the Mavic Air 2. See the "Will I need to register the DJI Mavic Air 2" section below. In taking on the folding design of the Mavic Pro series, the Mavic Air 2 sits low to the ground on its rear arms. This means that when taking off in grassy areas you have to find flat ground with short grass to avoid strimming the grass during takeoff and landing. This can cause erratic flight and, at worst, crashes. For this reason, it's worth carrying a small landing mat that can be pegged to the ground to provide a clear and safe takeoff area. On harder, flatter surfaces such as tarmac and concrete, this obviously isn't a problem. In a departure from the folding controller design employed by all previous and current Mavic drones, the Mavic Air 2 controller is larger and doesn't feature a folding design. It's like a smaller version of the DJI Smart Controller, but sadly without the screen. This new shape is comfortable to hold thanks to the contoured grips on the rear and its 393 g weight. The controller also starts up and connects to the aircraft quicker than the previous controller. With this new design, the phone attaches to the top of the controller via a telescopic grip that will comfortably accept phones of all sizes, including phablets. The phone connector cable attaches within the cavity where the top of the phone holder stows away when not in use, and there's a slot to insert the phone end when it's not in use to keep the cable tidy and out of the way. The Air 2S is small at just 180 by 97 by 80 mm when folded, and 183 by 253 by 77 mm when unfolded. It's barely any different to its predecessor, but that puts the folded length at 4 mm shorter than the Mavic Air 2. and at just 595G, the Air 2S is just over half the weight of the DJI Mavic 2 Pro and just 25G heavier than the Air 2, which is very impressive considering its larger camera. The controller is the same as the one you get with the Mavic Air 2. Unlike the Mavic 2 Pro's controller, though, it isn't foldable and is larger with a weight of 393G. While it connects to the aircraft faster than the Mavic 2 controller, it, unfortunately, doesn't offer a simple screen showing basic flight and camera information. Without the folding arms to support a phone, the phone attaches to the top of the controller using a telescopic grip, and the control sticks are stored in rubberized sections at the bottom of the controller. It's a comfortable controller to use, but it's a shame it's larger and heavier than the Mavic 2 Pro and Mavic 2 Zoom's controller. Flying the DJI Air 2S is extremely easy, and indeed safe, thanks to the flight features that the Mavic series have become well known for. Whether you're an absolute beginner or a seasoned expert, the flight modes, automated video modes, collision avoidance and manual flight control provide as little or as much assistance as you need. The Air 2S features all of the camera functions you'd expect, including single shot, timed photo, AEB, auto exposure bracketing, HDR, panoramas and hyperlapses. Plus, there's a new smart photo mode that records full-resolution photos using scene analysis and deep learning to automatically choose the best of three options: HDR, hyperlight, and scene recognition for your photo. This is great for photography beginners who want to capture a high-quality image with minimum effort, but not so much for more advanced users. Still, if you're capturing stills in RAW plus JPEG mode, the JPEG will be processed as a smart photo, while the RAW file will be unprocessed, so you can edit it yourself if you wish.